All right, hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Mary. I'm going to be taking us through today's training. We just wanted to give it a couple minutes to allow everyone a chance to join and get settled. So as I said, my name is Mary. I work for Microsoft. I'm going to take us through our Teams 200 training that we have for today. With me on the back end, I have some fantastic coworkers from Microsoft, Angelica and Sean, who are going to help keep an eye on the Q&A, along with Mandy from Ohio State University. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in that Q&A panel. They'll help get those answered, and or they will redirect me if there's something that I need to show again or go more in depth on. Now, before we get into the heart of our training, just a couple of features and functionality that I want to make you all aware of so everybody can consume the information that we have to share as easily and as comfortably as possible. So, first things first, if for any reason you experience any audio or video quality issues during today's training, please go ahead and use the leave button in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and you'll be able to rejoin right after. That should help correct any issues you may be experiencing. Now, along the bottom of your screen, you'll see some player control options at the bottom left where you can pause today's training. You can even back it up if you'd like to. So if there's something I said that you'd like to hear again, if you had to step away to grab some water, if you'd like to pause it to grab a screenshot or jot down some notes, please feel free to do so. And you'll be able, if you'd like, to click on the live button to jump back to where we are in the training. On the right-hand side along the bottom, there is that little CC icon in the little rectangle, and right next to that there is a gear or cog icon that you can open to access some settings. So inside of that settings wheel, you can access things like the playback speed. So I know I have a tendency sometimes to talk quickly, but during these trainings, I definitely try to pace myself. However, if you would like to slow me down, you can certainly do that. Or if you had to back the training up and you'd like to pick up the speed to catch up to where we're at, you're more than welcome to do so there as well. If you go in, you can turn on the captions and subtitles, of course, and there are some settings you can control around that. So if you would like to make the text larger or smaller, if you'd like to change the color or toggle background transparency on or off at all, again, whatever makes it easiest for you to follow along, participate, and gain the information that we're excited to share with you today. So go ahead and take a moment to get settled, get comfortable, and we'll go ahead and take a look at our agenda for today's training. One more thing, sorry y'all, before we dive into that. As I mentioned, there's that Q&A panel on the right-hand side. If you're not seeing it at all, or if you would like to collapse that panel to increase your view of the screen, there's that little Q&A icon at the top that you can click on. That'll show or hide the questions for you. In the Q&A panel, you're going to see two tabs. One is going to be featured. If you look there, you'll see some announcements that we've posted about today's training. And under My Questions is where you'll see your questions as well as the answers that we provide show up for you. Now, you do have the option to include your name when you ask the question. However, you do not need to do that. If you'd like, you can check that little box that says Post as Anonymous, and all of your questions that you ask will come in marked as such. So again, here to talk about Teams 200, and as promised, now we'll go ahead and talk about that agenda for today. So we're going to talk about a few things more in depth with Teams, and we're going to start with a quick review of the parts that make up a team. If you joined our training on Tuesday, this might be a little bit of review, which is not a bad thing ever, right? Because we also want to talk today about things to think through before you create a new team. Some questions to ask yourself, especially if you're trying to figure out, should I make a new team or should I just build a channel in an existing team? And then we are, as we go through today, going to talk about some tips for Microsoft Teams overall, as well as some best practices. And we'll look more in depth into the pieces that make Teams what it is. So, first things first, again, Teams is meant to be a platform or a hub for a lot of the things that you do on your day-to-day work life, your day-to-day basis. It brings the conversations with the people that you work with together, the files that you work on, you can work on those inside of one place. and all of those other tools and applications that you use to get your work done. So again, instead of having to jump between different platforms or different programs, being able to kind of stay in one central location. And then, as promised, just a quick review of the parts that make up a team. So you have your overhead, your umbrella, which is your team itself. So that's the combination of the people that you're working with, the conversations that you're having about your work, the tools and applications that you're using to get your work done. Those can be geared towards different things, right? So for y'all, they could be geared towards specific classes that you're in. They could be geared towards specific projects that are being worked on, school clubs, a whole bunch of different options are at your fingertips there. And then within your team, you have your channels. And so those are the different building blocks or key work streams of your team itself. Every team by default comes with that general channel. And we're going to talk a little bit about what you can do with that today. And then the other channels can be added. So you look at our Market project team, we have a channel focused on the design of the project, a channel focused on our go-to-market plan, a channel even focused on research and development. And then within our channels are where we have our tabs, and those are going to be the tools, websites, files, things that we use to get the work done in that channel. And the tabs are there, they really are meant to be dynamic. So every channel by default automatically comes with a post tab and a files tab. The post tab is where we're going to have those conversations. Files tab is where our files are going to live. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the files piece today, but we're also going to talk about the other tabs that you can add to a team. So you can get a feel for what that would look like and hopefully help you start brainstorming on tabs that your team can use. Now, as I mentioned, we have some questions that we encourage y'all to ask yourselves if you're looking at building a new team, or as we like to call it, meet up before you team up. So the first two questions really go hand in hand. The first one is, what is the purpose or goal of this team? And then, is this something that is project-based? Is this for a specific business unit or department or class or club, things like that? Because then we jump right into question 3, which is, who needs to be on this team, right? We want to make sure that we include those that really do need to be on the team. We want to make sure that we invite them. And then question number 4 starts to dive into those channels, which is, what are the key focus areas for this team? What are the key building blocks? What are the key areas that we're working in or want to focus on for that particular team? Now, I'm going to pause before we go into the rest of the questions, because this is where I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and build slowly, let things grow organically, right? I don't need to set up a new team and feel like I have to automatically create the 10 channels that I think should go with it. No, go ahead and create your new team. You've got your general channel to start out with, right? And then as you're adding your team members, let the team members and yourself work together to really figure out what other channels would benefit your team, what areas you really are focusing on, and grow from there. You don't need to start big right away. And then question number 5 is where we start to look into the tabs for the channels. And so those are going to be, what are some of those key applications or key websites, key files that we're using to get that work done that we might want to include as some of our initial tabs. And then question number 6 is, how do we use that general channel? So this is a question that we see come up quite a bit, because as I said, every team gets that general channel automatically. And so people go, well, what do I do with it? Why is it there? General channel has 2 really great purposes that I like to focus on. The first one is any communication that is relevant to the entire team. So if there was an announcement that you were going to send out to your team via email, instead of sending that out via email and then waiting for people to hit reply all and needing to kind of clean up my inbox or risking multiple threads getting split and started, it's a lot easier to come into that general channel, and we can post our announcement and our communication there. People can still come in and reply. It'll keep that thread together for us. It keeps our inbox a little cleaner and more organized, and everybody can still get that information again in one place. The other use for the general channel is it's a fantastic place to post a little bit of a welcome message or some basic information around what the purpose of that particular team is, so that as people join it, as new members join your team, they have a place to look to launch off from. They can quickly see what that team is focusing on, how they communicate, how they work together, and then quickly start to engage with the rest of the team. And then question number 7 is something we're really going to take a look at today in our live demo, which is what do we want those settings and member permissions to be? So that is something that we want to think about, especially if we are an owner of that team. Now, with all of that being said, we are going to go ahead and jump into our live demo. Before we do that, I am going to pause for just a moment and check in with my moderators to see, I'm going to check in with Angelica and see if there are any questions that have come up that I should address before we move on.
The Q&A is looking good.
Perfect, thank you so much. All right, so we'll go ahead and get into that live demo then. So we are starting out in my Teams desktop client, just like we did on Tuesday. Right now we are in our Teams area on the left-hand side. And if I do need to zoom in at all, please don't hesitate to let us know. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in just once to hopefully make this a little bit easier for everybody to see. But if I need to make it bigger, don't hesitate to throw that into that Q&A and we'll take care of it for you. Now, as I mentioned, some really great uses for the general channel, because we can see that right now I'm in our OSU team in that general channel. That welcome post that I mentioned, it's a great place to kind of welcome everybody to the team, give some basic information, right? If y'all remember from Tuesday, awesome. If you weren't able to attend Tuesday, don't worry, that session was recorded, so you'll be able to go back and watch it. But we can do things like post an actual announcement where we get that banner headline. We can have things like bulleted lists and our messages. We can even include some of that fun stuff like GIFs, stickers, emojis, and those really are there to help everybody feel comfortable and give everybody the confidence to start engaging. Because sometimes it can be a little hard to read tone or body language behind a computer screen, so we start to get a little shy, we're hesitant to say something. If we can get somebody to start engaging with us by putting a little dancing penguin in there, then why not? And again, people can come in and reply to that post, so they can reply to the communication. They could even hover over the post and give it a quick thumbs up or another reaction just to acknowledge that they saw this, right? Instead of just replying, got it, or understood, or yes, I read it. Sometimes a thumbs up is just so much faster. So we're not going to dive too much into the post creation bit today, but I do want to talk to you all about that last question that we saw on that slide, which is what are our member permissions and settings going to be? What do we want our team members to be able to do? So we're going to talk about how we manage that and talk through some ideas, things to kind of get you going. So to go into my team member settings, right next to my team, my OSU team, I'm going to see those ellipses right there. I will click on that dot, those 3 dots, and I will open up a drop-down menu. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to go 2 down into Manage Team. When I click on that, it takes us, and the first screen it takes us into is where it's going to show us who our team owners are, as well as who our team members are. Now, if you'll remember, best practice is to always have at least 2 team owners. 3 is preferable. That way, if Melanie were to go on vacation and Pierce got promoted, I am still in place as a team owner to help manage any permissions or settings that we might need to adjust. Also, if I need to add a team member, this is a great place to do that. So at the right-hand side, right on the cross from where it says search for members, there's that purple add member button that I will click on. And now I can go ahead and start typing in people's names. So we'll go ahead and get Sean added. We'll get Ray added. We'll get Tim added in there. So once we've done that, on the right-hand side, we'll go ahead and click on add. It will think for just a moment, and then it will go ahead and get them added. Now, it's adding them as members right now. If I did want to make somebody an owner, I can do that by clicking on the drop down just to the right of where it says member. and change them to an owner. But for right now, we already have our 3 team owners in place. Tim, Ray, Sean, they're going to be interacting, but they don't really need to be team owners, so we'll leave this as is. We'll go ahead and hit close at the bottom right of this box. Now from here, the next thing we're going to jump into, the next tab that we're going to pick at the top, is actually settings. And so this is where we're going to start going through some of these pieces. So the second one down is member permissions, and that's where I'd like to start with y'all today. If I open this up, if I expand this, this is where I'm going to start making decisions. So the first thing I'm going to decide is around channels specifically. I am going to choose if team members are allowed to create or update channels. So I'm going to choose, do I want our team members to be able to add additional channels? And for right now, I am going to go ahead and leave that on. I know that we have some really great team members with great ideas. I trust that they know the work that we're doing, and I think that they'll have some great contributions. So I want to give them free reign to add the channels that they think that we need. Then from there, if I am giving them the ability to create channels, I need to choose whether or not they're going to be allowed to create private channels. So you can have private channels in a team. Private channels are something that only those that have been added to that channel will be able to see. Now, the people that you add to that private channel do need to be a member of the overall team, but until they're added to that private channel, they will not know it exists, they will not see it. So we'll take a look at creating a private channel in a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and give them permission to create private channels too. Again, I want everybody to get comfortable with how Teams works and kind of what it does. So I want to make sure they have the ability to do a fair amount of things. Now, underneath of that, I'm going to choose whether or not members are allowed to delete and restore channels. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that box. So they're going to be able to create channels. They'll be able to create private channels. What they're not going to be able to do is go in and delete channels. That's something that I would like our team owners specifically to be in charge of. I don't want to give other people that free reign just yet. Then if we jump 3 down, I'm going to start to choose whether or not they're allowed to create, update, and remove tabs. Now this is one that I'm going to leave checked. This is one that I encourage y'all to leave checked as well, because again, tabs are there, they're meant to be dynamic, right? They're meant to be added and removed as our work shifts, as our focus changes. So if there's a file that we're focusing quite heavily on one month and then that changes the next month, I want our team members to be able to remove that tab and attach the more updated file or the different file that our focus has shifted to. And then the bottom 2 options there are going to be around whether or not members are able to delete their messages as well as whether or not they're able to edit their messages. So again, this is going to apply only to messages, posts, or replies that they themselves have created. They won't be able to make a change to anybody else's post, but I know that I type quickly sometimes. I'm not always the best at proofreading before I hit post, and then I realize I had a spelling mistake or there's something I forgot to add. So the ability to go in and edit or delete my message has definitely come in handy. We're going to go ahead and leave that on as well. Now, if we jump 2 down into @mentions, in our session on Tuesday, we talked about the fact that I can do what's called tagging or @mentioning individuals. So I can put in the @ symbol and somebody's name that works with me, and that person will get a notification that they have been tagged. It's a great way to say, hey, I would like your line of sight on something specific. I might be asking for your feedback or asking you to do something. We also have the option to tag or @mention teams and channels. So team owners will always have that ability. Team owners will always be able to tag the entire team. They'll be able to tag the entire channel. This is just choosing whether or not we want our team members to be able to do that. So whether or not our team members are going to be allowed to tag, let's say, our data analysis channel on our engineering team. So I like to give them the ability to tag particular channels. Typically, tagging the entire team is something that I reserve for the team owners, as people posting something that's relevant to the entire team tends to come from one of the team owners.
Hey, Mary.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned connectors, and we have a question for what exactly those are. Could you go into a little bit more detail?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely dive into connectors. How about this? Let's go ahead and get through the rest of our settings, and we'll go ahead and loop back around to connectors.
Sounds good.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so as I mentioned, right, options to choose if we're going to be able to tag or @mention entire team or a particular channel. Underneath of that is the team code. So when we create new teams, you can choose if it's going to be a public or a private team. Public teams are teams that anybody is going to be allowed to join. They don't need permission, they don't need to be approved or anything like that. Our private teams, they'll either request to join and one of the team owners needs to approve them, or we could go ahead, if we don't add people directly, what we could do is actually generate a team code to give to people to go ahead and join the team. So if I expand this box, this is where I can go ahead and generate that code. So for example, if I was doing a campus-wide meeting and I was letting people know that we had this OSU team, and if they wanted to join, they could use this code to go ahead and join, so that way they don't have to wait for permission. I could click on generate, and it will give us that code. Now, some best practices around this that I just want y'all to be aware of. I will always recommend, once somebody has joined with that code, or if you let people know, hey, you can use this code within the next 24 hours to join our team. After that 24-hour period, I would recommend coming in and using that reset or remove button. Resetting will just change this. Removing deletes it entirely, and you can always regenerate a new one later. But that way, if that code were to get to somebody who didn't necessarily need to be on that team, if they try the code, it will not work. It will let them know that it's invalid. Underneath of that, we have our fun stuff. So this is where things like those GIFs, stickers, memes, we can go ahead and turn those off entirely if we want to. I'm gonna recommend, again, go ahead and leave them on, especially initially, even if you think that your team really just is not going to use those at all, they have no purpose for them. You never know. Better to leave that on in the beginning, right? And then if you need to, if they're not using it later or not using it the way you intended for them to, you can come in and change that. Or you could just change the filter on this. You could change it from moderate to strict for the GIFs if you want to. So a lot of different options in here. All right, and I know we had a question about what connectors are, so I would definitely want to make sure that we answer that. Now, before I dive into that, I just want to pause and see if there were any other questions that came up around the member permissions or member settings that we should address. All right, looks like we should be good to go then. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about connectors for just a moment. So you've got this option here right around members being able to create, update, or remove connectors. And bear with me, y'all, I apologize, allergies, and I'm going to sneeze, so I'm going to mute myself for just a moment. All right, so we'll go ahead and actually what we're going to do is post a couple of resource links around connectors, and we're going to actually come back to this before the end of today's training. I apologize, but I want to make sure there's some content I want to make sure that we get through for y'all before we dive into that piece specifically. So for right now, a couple of other things that I want to just call out quickly before we move on. So under channels, this is where we are going to see the different channels that exist in this team. Right now, we do just have that general channel, right? So if we wanted to add a new one, we can quickly do so at the top right where we have that purple button that says Add Channel. So if I click on that, it's going to ask me what I want to name this channel. Now, best practice around this is to keep it to 4 words or less, just so that it doesn't get too long and kind of run off the page. You want to keep this nice and concise. So we'll call this rollout plan for now. And again, best practice is to always put a description in of that channel. That way people know what the focus is, what the purpose is of that particular channel. For the sake of expediency and so that y'all don't have to listen to my keyboard too much, I'm going to ignore my own best practice and skip the description for right now. And then underneath of that is a privacy option. So this is where I'm going to choose if this is a standard channel, so everybody on the team will be able to see this channel and access it, or if it's going to be a private channel. So as I mentioned, we can create private channels that only specific members of our team will be able to see. If I make this a private channel, I would then need to specify who I would like to add to this channel. For right now, we're going to keep this as standard. And then underneath of that, you're going to notice this checkbox to choose whether or not this channel will automatically show up in everybody's channel list. And so for right now, I'm going to leave that unchecked so we can show you what the repercussions of that are, or what happens, what that looks like when we do not check that box, as well as how we can change that option if we'd like to. So we'll go ahead and click on Add. And this will get this added for us. And now we see that rollout plan channel right under general. So I can see that that plan is there. Bear with me for 1 second. Perfect. So we did not check that box that had automatically show on our channel, right? So what happens and what everybody will see in this team is they'll see this one hidden channel area. And if they click on this, they'll be able to see, they should be able to see the list of channels that has been hidden. Looks like my network might be having just the tiniest issue. If we look below under engineering, for example, we have hidden channels here as well. So normally when we click on that, we would be able to see the list of those channels that have been hidden. If I would like to change that option, if I want to have this channel show up for everybody on this list, just like our general channel is, just like our channels under engineering are, I can go back into the OSU settings and go into manage team. If I go under channels again, we're going to see here 2 options. I can choose to have this show for me. So this will just affect my view. It doesn't affect everybody else's view. Or I can click on this box that says show for team members. So what happens here is now this channel, if I check this box, will show up on everybody's list. It'll automatically show up there. It'll also let us know that it's going to make it visible in everyone's channel list. So we can choose to click on confirm. And that way we know everybody's going to be able to see that rollout plan automatically on their list. All right. And then as I mentioned, right, one of the options we had was choosing whether or not our team members are able to delete a channel, whether or not we want them to be able to delete channels. And currently we have it set so only the owners of the team are able to do that. Again, the team owners are really going to be the ones that control things like member permissions. They're going to be the ones that admit people to the team if this is a private team and we need to approve people being added. Now, if I were to delete a team, it doesn't delete it immediately. It's a little bit more like archiving that particular channel. So if I use this rollout plan as an example, on the right-hand side, there are those ellipses. And if I click on this, we are going to get into a drop-down menu. Again, just like we have before when we click on ellipses. There are a couple of things that I can do here. But the first one that I want to talk about is actually at the bottom of the list, which is delete. So if I delete this channel, the posts in that channel, the files that were shared there, they're going to be archived with this specific channel. Our files will still be accessible. It will remove the posts and the conversations. Now, if I was doing some spring cleaning of my team, I was trying to kind of clean things up and make it a little bit more organized, and we got rid of a channel that we then found out we needed. It was something that we really do need to use. It's something we would like to keep. We will be able to restore that for up to 30 days. I'm going to go ahead and click on delete so that we can look at how to restore a channel. So we'll see that removed from our active channel list, and that channel should show up in deleted for us. So we're going to switch back into channels. There we go. And now if I look at deleted, we'll see that one in parentheses, and I'm going to expand that. We can see that our rollout plan channel is there. All I have to do is click on restore. And what's great about this is it restores everything. So those posts and conversations that we had, all of the content will be restored right along with it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on restore. Now, I saw a question that came in. It's a fantastic question, which is why would we choose to have channels that are hidden? Why wouldn't we have them all showing? So there are a couple of different use cases for this that I want to talk to y'all about. We're going to go back into our general channel for just a moment. So if I take, for example, this Women in Computer Science team, we're going to see that we have 5 channels, right? We have a general channel, we have a channel around announcements, event planning, fundraising, and job postings. Now, for me in particular, we can see that I am part of quite a few teams, right? But there might only be specific channels that I'm really focusing on or working in or following. So I might not necessarily be interested in the job postings channel. And if I'm trying to keep this list a little bit cleaner or keep it focused on those channels that I am working in or more focused on, I might choose to go into those ellipses and choose to hide this channel. Now, this only hides it for myself, right? It's not going to impact anybody else's view. I'm really customizing my team's area to work for me so that I can see the channels that I really am interested in a little bit easier. And so similarly, if I am creating a new channel on a team and I know that it's not something that everyone on our team is going to be utilizing incredibly frequently, it might make sense for me to not have that show up on everybody's channel list. And those that really are focusing on that scope of work can go in and have that show if they would like to have that show up on their channel list. Now, I know we got a question in about if we can take a channel that we've set as public or private and change that. And so the answer to that one is currently that's not an option, right? If I go into the ellipses by that channel, so again, if we pick on our rollout plan, we're going to see an option to manage channel. But all this is going to do is give me some options about channel moderation, which I will talk about in just a moment. But to really answer your question about if we can change this to public versus private, right now, if I made a channel and I needed it to be private, but I accidentally set it up as public, I would need to delete that channel and create a new one and set as either public or private, depending on what I need. Now, the thing to be aware of with this, right? I mentioned that if we delete a channel, it's still going to live and deleted for 30 days. So I can't create multiple channels in a team with the exact same name. I would need to pick a slightly different name for that channel when I create it. So that's just something to be aware of. Now, I mentioned, and I do apologize if y'all can hear my dog in the background squeaking. He's a little excited right now. I mentioned we have options for our channel settings like we see here. And just so y'all know how we got here, if you hover over any channel on your list, you're going to see ellipses that show up, and I will click on those to open up a drop-down menu. And I'm going to talk about pinning again. We already talked about hiding or showing that particular channel, but for right now we're going to click into manage. And that's how we get into the permissions here. So what I'm choosing is whether or not channel moderation is going to be turned on. So if I do not have channel moderation turned on, everybody is going to be allowed to start a new post or a new conversation in that channel. Anybody and everybody that's already on that team would be able to come in and create a new post very easily. However, if I'm taking a look, for example, at our Women in Computer Science team, you'll notice that we have a channel focused around announcements. So that might be something where only very specific people need to start a new post because that channel has a very specific focus, a very specific purpose that is geared towards announcements. We don't necessarily need or want everybody coming in and creating posts about anything else. So then I might want to go into channel moderation and turn this to on. Now, what's great about this is I get to pick who the moderators are going to be. It defaults to team owners. So in this case, that would be myself, Pierce, and Melanie. But if I want to change that, if it's not actually the team owners, but there's somebody else on our team who's in charge of the announcements, I can go into manage and I can pick who that person would be. So if I wanted to make Tim our moderator, I can go ahead and type in his name and click on done. Now, by default, again, your team owners are always going to have the ability. They're always going to be moderators, but you can add other people as well. And then it lets us know that only those moderators are going to start the new posts. Underneath of that, we are going to choose who's allowed to reply to the posts or the channel messages that are created. So our team member is going to be allowed to reply to new posts. And in this case, we're going to give them that ability, right? We're posting announcements, but if they have a question about an announcement, we want them to be able to reply. We're also going to choose whether or not team members are able to pin messages. And so we'll take a look at what that looks like in a little bit. But again, for right now, for announcements, we'll actually go ahead and remove that. Because again, our moderators should be able to choose which posts are going to be pinned. And then if we were using bots at all, if we were using any bot applications in our teams, we would be able to choose if they're going to be able to submit messages. That's not something currently that y'all are going to really see or need to choose. You're not really going to need to worry about bots or connectors at all. You're going to focus on what your members, our team members, are going to be allowed to do. This is where we can set up that channel moderation and those permissions. All right, now, as I mentioned, right, one of the options is around pinning channel messages. So let's just take a look at that so everybody kind of understands and gets a feel for what that is like. So if I come back into our general channel here, we are going to go ahead and actually pin this welcome post that we've created. So what I can do is if I hover over this in the top right corner of that post, we get our little reactions. We also get those ellipses, which is our infamous way of saying, hey, wait, you have more options. If I click into this, we're going to have some choices. The first thing I could do is actually choose to save this message, right? So that will essentially bookmark it for me. If there's something I want to be able to quickly and easily reference later, I can choose to save it or bookmark it. Because I'm the one that created this post, I have options to edit or delete this post as well. And if we come almost to the bottom, we have this option here for pin. Now, if I click on pin, it's going to be pinned for everybody. And I'll show y'all what it does and where it puts it. So we'll click on pin. You'll notice in the top right where we had that megaphone icon letting us know this is an announcement. We now have a green thumbtack option letting us know that this post has been pinned. Now, if team members would like a quick, easy way to see what posts have been pinned in a channel, at the top right corner of your screen, there's this little I button in the little circle. That's our channel information button. If I click on that, it'll open up this pane on the right-hand side. It lets us know what the team is about. If we were in a rollout plan channel, for example, this would be where our channel definition lives as well. We can see who the team members are very easily, and posts that have been pinned will show up right at the bottom under pinned. So people can quickly and easily find those pinned posts there. If they wanted to interact with it or quickly jump to that post, all they have to do is click and it will take them to that particular post. Now, I am going to pause and just check in with Angelica one more time and see if there are any other questions that may have come up that we should cover before we continue on into talking about tabs.
No, it is looking good for now.
Perfect, thank you so much. So we've taken a look at some of our member permissions, some of our settings around channels and teams, right? If I did save or bookmark a post like we just talked about, because we just showed where to find it if we pinned it, but if I did choose to bookmark or save a particular post, I can access that very easily at the top, very top of my screen where our profile picture icon is, or in this case, my initials in a colored background. If I click into this, one of the options we have near the top is saved. If I click there, that will show me any messages or posts that I may have bookmarked or saved. Now, the nice thing about being able to save or bookmark is that doesn't apply only to channel posts. I can also choose to save or bookmark chat messages as well. So for just a moment, if I jump into chat, if there was a message that I wanted to save, I get there the exact same way. I hover over a chat message, use the top right for those ellipses, and my top option will be save. It will put it directly into my saved area under my profile picture. Now, one other thing before we jump into some of those tabs that you can add for a channel, if we go back into our channel options menu. So if I hover over a channel, use those ellipses again. If you'll remember, we talked about being able to hide or show a channel if it's something that we're not in very frequently. The other option I have is to pin this channel. And again, all of these options that I'm going to talk to you all about, they are specific to you. You're not editing or changing anybody else's. You're not editing or changing anybody else's view. So if this is a channel that I am in heavily, this is something I'm in multiple times a day, or I want to be able to quickly and easily access this anytime, I could go ahead and pin that channel. And now it moves that channel to the top for me right under pinned. So now I'll see any channels that I pin show up right there. It's very easy for me to move between them instead of needing to scroll down and look for the particular channel that I am interested in. And the other option that I want to talk to y'all about as far as channel options go is actually managing channel notifications. So we talked to y'all a little bit on Tuesday about how to manage notifications for the different type of activity that happens in Teams. As a reminder, if you're wanting to get to your general notifications, it's going to be through that profile picture icon on the right-hand side. You'll click on that and jump down to settings. We'll left click on settings and we get a box that opens up in the middle. And if we go to our third option, which is notifications, this is where we can start to control notifications for things like chat messages, meetings, anything else kind of lives in here. But I can also manage settings on a per channel basis. So if I Again, if rollout plan is something I am heavily involved in, I want to make sure I'm always up to speed on what's happening there. I'll go into more options right next to rollout plan. And the very top option is channel notifications. So there are going to be 3 options here. I can choose to get notified about all activity. So any new posts, any replies, anytime I'm tagged or mentioned in this channel, I will get a notification on it. I could also choose to turn the notifications off entirely. So unless I were to post in that channel and someone replies to my post, or unless somebody tags or mentions me, I'm not going to get notified. So if this is a channel that I'm not in very frequently, it's not something I'm very active in, I don't necessarily need all of those notifications coming through, I can go ahead and click on off. And then the third option is going to be custom. And if you click into custom, this will let you know what's going to happen. So anytime somebody creates a new post, currently I'm not going to get a notification about that. But if the channel is tagged or mentioned, and remember we talked about that when we talked about member permissions, if somebody does tag or mention a channel, I will get that notification both in my activity feed, which lays in the little bell icon at the top left of your navigation pane. I'll also get a banner or pop-up notification. So that will show up at the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. It's a little purple pop-up if that channel was tagged or mentioned. So I would encourage you to come in and take a look at this. Now, one thing I also want to call out about your channel notifications. If a new team is created, I would highly encourage y'all to take a look at the channel notification settings for the general channel specifically, because by default, these notifications go into custom and it will turn your all news post setting to off. So if somebody were to go into that general channel and create a new post, you would not be notified about that unless somebody directly tagged or mentioned you or mentioned the general channel. Now, if our team owners are using that general channel to post things that are relevant to the entire team, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm getting notified about that. So we're going to come in and have this show up specifically in our activity feed. And if I do choose to be notified about that, I need to make a choice about whether or not I'm going to be notified about the replies to posts as well. So if I want to get notified every time somebody replies to a post, I can go ahead and check that box. For me, that's a little bit much, so I'm going to leave that off for right now, but we'll go ahead and click on save. So I would remind you, I would encourage you to come in and take a look at your notifications and really customize those to be what makes you most effective and efficient. Now, as I mentioned, we have options to add additional tabs to Teams. So I want to take some time to look through that and talk to y'all about what your options are there. So if I, let's say, come into my general channel for my OSU team, you can see right now we have 3 tabs. We have our post tab and our files tab. We also have a Teams meeting agenda tab. If I would like to add a new tab, I am going to go to the plus icon at the top here. And this is going to open up some options for me. Now I'm going to do a call out right away. What you see on my screen might not perfectly match what you have access to on in your tenant. So we are going to talk through options that I know that y'all should have access to. If there's one in particular that you're curious about, you can go ahead and put it in that Q&A and we will do our best to answer that for you. But this is where I can start to add applications or files that we're using quite a bit inside of our team. So for example, if there was a Word document or an Excel sheet or a OneNote or a PowerPoint deck that our team was using on a regular basis and had been shared to our team, I can go ahead and pick that particular application. So we'll go ahead and pick Word. And now it's going to ask me to give it a name. I will always recommend renaming the tab so that people know exactly what this is going to point to. And then I'm going to pick which file it is that I am linking to. So in this case, we'll go ahead and pull our meeting agenda. We'll go ahead and click on save. And once that has been added, we'll see that we now have that tab at the top of our screen. When people click into that tab, they'll be able to access and edit and work on this file directly from that tab instead of needing to go in and find it through the files area or scrolling up to find the post that it was shared in. So again, these are meant to be dynamic. If there are things you're using quite a bit, it's great to add them as tabs. If we were done with this tab, if this is a file we were just focusing on for a few weeks, for example, and now we're done with it, we still want it to live in our channel, but we're kind of done working on it for right now. We don't need it to always be at the top. We can quickly remove it as a tab. So I can go in and right click on any of the tabs that I want outside of posts or files, and I can come in and remove this. Now, here's the call out that I like to make because we see this question a lot. Removing the tab does not remove the file. The file will still live in the Files tab. So even if I remove agenda, we're going to see that Teams meeting agenda file right there. So they'll still be able to access it, make changes, do whatever they would like to with that file. We're just keeping our tabs area cleaned up a little bit, right? If there are other things we need to attach, we can very easily do so. So a couple of things that I do want to talk to y'all about as far as our files go to, because I know we had a lot of questions around this last time. For every site that you create, for every new team that you create inside of Teams, a SharePoint site is automatically created on the back end. That's where any files that are shared are going to live. Here's why we care about this. A couple of things. If I wanted to, I can very easily upload files. I could even upload an entire folder to this channel. If I go ahead and click on folder, it will open up File Explorer for me, and I can pick what I want to attach. So if I wanted to attach this project A folder, I can select that, and it will work on getting that uploaded. I could also start a new file from here. I could even create a new folder in this channel if I'd like to help keep things organized a little bit, right? Now, if I were doing some spring cleaning, let's say, and I accidentally deleted a file that I didn't mean to or that I shouldn't have, and I can do that by going into the ellipses right next to that file. You'll have some different options, but if I were to click on delete, it'll ask me, am I sure that I want to send that to the recycle bin? So even here, you'll get a warning, but let's say I go ahead and hit delete anyways. And then I realize, oh dear, I did not mean to actually remove that. We need that back. As it said, it's only going to a recycle bin. You have up to 93 days to restore it. So how do we restore it? We are going to go into Open in SharePoint, and this will take us to our SharePoint site for this team. Now on the left-hand side here, we have a navigation area. I'm going to zoom in a bit. I'm going to click on Recycle Bin, and I will be able to see the files that I have deleted. I can see the day it was deleted, who deleted it, who initially created it, and where it initially lived. If I click on this particular file, I will now have the ability to restore it. It'll let me know that that's processing, and once it's done, if I go back into Documents, and I go into a rollout plan, or I'm sorry, it was in General, my apologies, y'all. If I go into General, we will see our little Teams meeting agenda is back safe and sound. Now, I'm going to go back to our documents root folder for just a moment, which is our base level, right? As I said, every team that's created automatically has a SharePoint site. That's where the files that are created are going to live. So for every channel that we create in Teams, in that team, a folder is automatically created on the SharePoint site. So when I added that rollout plan channel, a rollout plan folder was automatically created on the SharePoint site that corresponds to that channel. Now, please understand that that is a one-way street. If I create a channel in Teams, it creates a folder in SharePoint. If I were to add a folder in SharePoint at the base level here, if we're right at the root folder of documents and I were to add a new channel, or I'm sorry, if I were to add a new folder here, it does not create a new channel in Teams. So that is something you're going to want to do from the Teams side. Now, if I wanted to, I can go into the rollout plan folder itself, and then I could start creating new folders here to help build some organization. That will be reflected in Teams. So if I add new folders inside of a channel folder on SharePoint, that will be reflected in Teams. It will show up for me. Just want to call out that initial question that we tend to get. And I'm going to pause for just a moment because I think we may have a question. So Sean, did you have something come up?
Sorry, my view is still loading. Our department was recently moved to a new department, and they use Planner in Teams for just about everything. Can we go over Planner in Teams a little bit?
Yes, we can definitely do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me know. So we'll go ahead and go there in just a second here. But again, we are going to, so this is a quick look at your SharePoint site, right? Now, a couple of other things I want to call out about the SharePoint side before we start to talk about some of those other tabs like Planner. If somebody had made a lot of changes to a file, so if I go back into our general folder for just a moment, if somebody had come in and made just a whole bunch of changes to a file or something like that, and they did something they didn't intend to, or they accidentally messed something up, deleted a whole bunch of information from the file, and we need to be able to restore a previous version, we can very easily do that. So while we are inside of SharePoint here, if I look in the middle as I'm hovering over this file, we have vertical ellipses right here. If I click on this, it's going to open up a menu for me. And we're going to go ahead and head towards the bottom where it says version history. So if I click on version history, I will be able to see any versions that are here. I'll be able to see when they were created, so the date and time, as well as who they were created by. And I could very easily choose to view that version or even restore that version if that is the one that we're looking for, that we need to restore. So you do have those options to make those changes from the SharePoint site. Now, the really nice thing about this, right? If I go back into Teams for a moment, if I would like to, I want to open up a file to work on, I can do that from inside of Teams. It'll open up in Teams. I don't have to jump between programs, which is great. But if I am more comfortable working in the desktop application, I can still open this file up there and work on it. If I go into the ellipses one more time, we have this open option. And now I can choose, am I going to edit it inside of Teams? Am I going to open it up in the desktop app? Or do I want to open this up in a browser tab? Now, no matter which one of those three that we choose, we will be working on the file that is stored and saved in Teams. So our changes will automatically be saved as we make them. We'll be able to see if there's anybody else in that file with us making changes, and we'll be able to see those changes that they're making in real time. So those are really nice options there. If for some reason I absolutely needed to work on an entirely different version of this, if I needed to work on this file, but I don't want to work on the version that's stored in Teams, you do have the option to download a copy. And I cannot put enough emphasis on the word copy, because if we open up the file that we have downloaded and make changes, those changes are not going to be reflected in the file that is stored in Teams. So just something to be aware of there. And I know that we had a question come through. Just a reminder, y'all, once I have created a channel, I can't change the name of that channel. I also can't change if it's public or private. So, and here's the reason I'm calling this out. If I click on open in SharePoint one more time, or if we go back to our SharePoint site, do not come in at the base level. Do not come in and rename the folders that correspond to your channels in the team. You want those folders to match the channels that you have in your team so that everything works smoothly and the way it is intended to. So again, you're not going to want to make changes to the names of those folders that correspond to the channels in your team. Now, I know we had a question about Planner, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll take a look at a little bit of a high level, but just so that y'all understand what it is. So if I come back into the top where we have that plus icon where I can go to add additional tabs, we will click on that. And we have different options now, right? One of those options is going to be tasks by Planner and To Do. So the name is changing a little bit, but if I click on this, this is where I am going to be able to link Planner. And Planner is a task management application. So I can go ahead and give this a new name. I would recommend that. So we'll go ahead and call this OSU Plan. We're going to go ahead and click on Save. We'll give it just a moment here. So now what we see here is a plan. And what I have here are different buckets. So I have a to-do bucket. I can go ahead and add other buckets. So if I'd like, I can create one that says in, or we can call this pending. We can add as many buckets as we would like. And then I can go ahead and add a task to this. And we can have multiple tasks inside of a bucket. So we'll go ahead and click on Add Task. We'll give this a name. Call this Schedule Meeting. We'll say Schedule Welcome Meeting. And then I can go ahead and click on Add Task. So now we see our little Schedule Welcome Meeting task right there. If I would like more options, I can click on this and it opens up this lovely screen for me where I can go ahead and rename the task if I'd like. I can assign this to people that are on this team. I can add labels if I'd like to. If I click in the labels, we'll see different labels here, and I can rename these labels too. So if I'd like to change the name of this, we can do so. You can assign multiple labels to a task as well if you would like. So again, many options, right? If I need to move this to a different bucket, we can go ahead and do that. If I would like to mark that this is actually in progress, we've already started scheduling this meeting, I can change it. I can change things like the priority of the task. I could make it urgent or make it lower priority. I can also, of course, add a due date, and I can even add a start date if I want. So if this is something that we don't need to worry about until, let's say, later this month, maybe next week, I could set the start date as Monday and say that this has to absolutely be done by Wednesday. Then I could even do things like add in a quick note for people to see. I can create a checklist if I'd like. I can even add an attachment. So if I want to add a file from my computer, I can do that. If I would like to add a link, if there's a link that we're using or a link that I want to include for information or as a resource for this task, I can do that here. I can even attach something from the SharePoint site that this plan is going to be attached to. And the SharePoint site that this particular plan is going to be attached to is our OSU team SharePoint site because that's where I am creating this. So if I click on SharePoint, It's going to ask me which channel I want to pull from that general channel. We'll go ahead and pull that meeting agenda since this is a task about creating that meeting. Then if there are comments I want to leave, I can put those comments here. Now comments, once I type one in and click on send, will show up at the bottom here. They will always be there. So that is a way I could permanently add a comment. Notes are something that we could change or adjust as we need to. And you'll notice that right next to where it says Teams meeting agenda, we have this checkbox that we can use to have this display on our task card. If we leave that checked, on our little task index card here, we'll see that that file has been attached, so we could open that file up without having to open the entire task up. And once we're done, we'll go ahead and close out of this. So a quick look at how we can use Planner and some of those tasks in there. As I mentioned, we could quickly click on and move or drag this task to another bucket if I need to. I can also look at this a few different ways. So right now we are in our board view. If I wanted to view this in a list, I could do that. If I wanted to look at this on a schedule standpoint, I can click in the schedule, and now tasks that have start or end dates or both will show up in this lovely little calendar view for me. All right, I am going to pause and check in with Sean to see if we have any other questions that we should cover before we continue on.
I love it when we get questions this consistently. They're just rolling in. The next one that comes up is, I get errors like, sorry, we couldn't find such and such path or file name. Is it possible that was moved or renamed? Because I can still see the file listed in Teams and in my Windows Explorer directory that it's synced.
All right, so if for some reason you're getting an error around accessing or opening up files, what I would recommend doing, and this is a great question because I want to call out what y'all can do with this. Let's say the files for our general channel are something that I want to be able to access from my File Explorer, right? I don't always want to come into the Teams and the Files tab to open them there. We have the option to sync this with our File Explorer. And how I do that is I'm going to use that little sync button at the top. It will get ready to sync this with my OneDrive. Now, every once in a while, and I'm just going to call this out because it does happen on occasion, every once in a while this might just kind of spin for a bit. So if I were to open up File Explorer and I'm not quite seeing it show up yet, that's absolutely fine. What I would recommend doing is going to open in SharePoint, and you are going to have that sync button there as well. It does the same thing for you. If I click on sync, we're going to go ahead and let this open OneDrive to connect. And then it will actually get that syncing for us. So if I go back into my OneDrive here, now I can, or I'm sorry, if I go back into File Explorer, I can see my OneDrive on the left-hand side. Right above that, I see that little skyscraper icon that says Contoso. That is where I'm going to find the files that I just chose to have syncing with my computer. So if I were to open something like this up, and if for some reason when trying to open this up, I got an error saying the file path doesn't exist or anything else, what I would recommend doing is making sure that something hasn't been entirely renamed or moved to a similar channel. So in that case, what you might want to do is choose to either stop syncing that particular folder or those particular files and just resync it to have it work. That should correct any issues you're experiencing. Otherwise, I would say, yeah, just make sure that something like the folder overall wasn't completely renamed on you. All right, so I am going to pause for I'm going to clarify one other thing here, y'all. So as I said, when we choose to sync that, it says that it's working with our OneDrive. We are syncing the SharePoint site, which is why when I look at File Explorer, bear with me to see if I can make this a little bit bigger to make it easier for everybody to see. It might not let me do that, that's okay. If you'll notice, your OneDrive, that is your personal file storage. That's your personal filing cabinet in the cloud. SharePoint is our WeSpace, so it's a me space versus WeSpace, as I like to explain it, which is why the SharePoint site that we have chosen to sync has that little skyscraper icon right next to it, letting us know that we are syncing a SharePoint site to our File Explorer. Now, those are both cloud-based applications. They're both that cloud-based file storage, which is why when we click on that sync button, it says it's syncing with our OneDrive. We are still syncing the SharePoint site. Please don't let the wording choice trip you up there. All right, and just so y'all know, I know mine right now says Contoso. That is because we are using a demo tenant, and that is the name of our demo company. For y'all, what that should say is something along the lines of Ohio State University. So that is just reflective of the company that you're working with, working for. Alrighty. So we're going to go ahead and continue on. Before I do though, Sean, any other questions that we should cover?
We are actually coming up on the end of the questions, unless we have more rolling in.
Okay, perfect. Then we'll go ahead and continue on. So we have spent a lot of time in our teams and our channels, which is perfect because that's what I wanted to do today. I really wanted to give y'all a more in-depth look at and understanding of what we can do with our teams and channels, right? From managing member permissions to adding other tabs and applications, from creating new channels, looking at files, some of that file management piece, some really great options there, yeah? Now, within our Microsoft Teams application, we certainly have other areas, other work that we can do. So we have this Teams and Channels area, but we also have things like our chats, right? So I do want to take a little bit of time to talk to y'all about your chats today and how we can keep these organized. Now, just a reminder, there are 3 different types of chat conversations we can have. We can have our one-on-one or private conversations, much like I have right here with Tim, or I have my one-on-one conversation with Pierce. I can have a group chat, so a chat with multiple people. For example, I have the Dream Team chat that I can use. And every Teams meeting that I am a part of automatically has a chat that goes along with it as well. So I can see my meeting chats up above. Now, as you start to use Teams more and more, you're going to inevitably end up having more conversations, be them the one-on-one chats, or if you're like me and you're on back-to-back calls all day, you're going to have a lot of meeting chats that show up. So a question that we get, and something I really like to talk about, is the ability to organize and how we can keep this kind of cleaned up and really relevant and focused on what is important to me. So just like we showed y'all how you can hide or pin channels, we have a very similar option with chats. I'm just going to answer this right away. You cannot delete an entire chat conversation. It's not an option for y'all, but you can, if you needed to, come in and delete a particular message that you yourself have sent. So if you did send a message and you did not intend for it to go into that chat, you can go ahead and delete or edit that message, but you still have organization options. So for example, if I were to start a new chat by using this new chat box at the top right of our chat pane, if I were to start a new chat with Sean, and we'll just say a quick hello. Now, if this were a chat that I don't think I'm going to be using anytime soon, I don't actually need it showing up on my recents list, I can come in to the ellipses that'll show up by it, and I can choose to hide that chat. So that will remove it from my recent list. We'll see it doesn't show up there anymore. Two ways I can find that very easily. The first one is by using the search bar. If I went in and searched for Sean's name, we'll see that he shows up under people. If I click on that, it will take me into the chat that I have going with him. Now, if I did want to keep this on my recent list again, I will want to make sure that I go in by Sean's name, go into our more options, and click on unhide. If I don't do that, when I click into a different chat, we'll notice that Sean's one-on-one chat with myself has now disappeared again from my recent list. The other way I can quickly and easily find that chat is if Sean were to send me a new message, it would automatically show back up on my recent list at the top. So I don't need to worry about missing out on any new activity. If somebody goes in and sends a message in that chat, it will show up on recent for me. And that helps me kind of keep that area cleaned up. I also have the option to mute chats. So if I were in a meeting and it was just very chatty, even after I left, it's just very active, and I'm trying to focus on my work, or I want to kind of quiet down some of those notifications that I'm getting from it, I can go back into that menu through the ellipses, and I can go into mute. And we'll notice it stays on my recent list, right? But I get that bell icon with a line through it, letting me know that I have muted that chat. And now any notifications that come through, I will not see those, but I can come in at a later time and get caught up. Now, the nice thing about both of those options is it's not going to send an alert. It's not going to tell on me. It's not going to tell everybody else in the chat, hey, Mary hid or muted your chat. It's just something that I can choose to do. Now, on the other side of that, if there are chats that I am in quite a bit, that I'm regularly active in, I want to be able to quickly and easily find them. Just like we had the option to pin channels, I can actually pin chats as well. So if I were to go into the Dream Team or even my one-on-one chat with Tim, I can come up to where it says pin, and that will pin him to the top of my list. And now he will always live there. I will always be able to quickly jump into that conversation instead of trying to scroll down and look through all of the other chat conversations that I have. A couple of other things that I want to show y'all as far as the chat options go. So the first one is if I am in a group chat, right, and I want to add or remove somebody, very easy to do so. In the top right corner of your screen, if I move my mouse over the icon that looks like two people with a plus arrow, I'll click on that and I'll be able to see who is currently in this group chat. So if I needed to remove somebody, I can hover over their name and click on the X. They will still have access to the chat history from when they were a part of the chat, but they will not see any new chat messages or new activity that occurs. I can also go in and add people to this chat if I'd like to. Now, when I add somebody to a group chat, I have options around the chat history. So if I'm going to add Sean, I can choose if I am going to include all of the chat history. If I'm not going to include any of it, maybe it just really wasn't relevant. We were talking about what we're planning for lunch that day, and he doesn't need to worry about scrolling through and reading that. Or I can say, you know what, he needs to catch up on the history from the past 2 days, but anything before that really isn't relevant. We can customize the number of days that we share chat history from. And then we can go ahead and click on add, and it will get him added to that chat. One other thing that I want to make sure that we call out that we can do in this chat area before we move on is at actually the bottom of our screen. So underneath where we can send or type a new chat message, we have different options here, right? We have some formatting options. If I would like to format my text, or if I'd like to add a bulleted list, things like that. I can attach a file to share a file in a chat. I can even add some of that fun stuff that we talked about, GIFs, stickers, emojis, things like that. but right next to those options is a little calendar icon with a plus next to it. So what this does, if we're, let's say we're talking and we realize that this would be easier or better to do this kind of virtually, but face-to-face, it'd be easier to talk this out over a meeting as opposed to just trying to type it all out. I can use this button to schedule a meeting. And what's fantastic about that is it will automatically add those that were in that group chat with me to the invite list. So I don't need to worry about typing in their names. It does all of that work for me. Now, just a reminder, I can invite external attendees. All I need to do is put in their email address. So you can, of course, invite those that are internal, but you can invite external attendees as well. And also another reminder that you can use Scheduling Assistant to see when it is a good time for you to meet. So if I click into Scheduling Assistant, I can see that Pierce right now has something going on. Looks like Tim might just be on vacation right now. So I could click and drag this around to when it is a more appropriate time for us to get together. We'll go ahead and just discard this for right now, but a really nice little tool with that schedule a meeting button. Now, if we are, let's say I am chatting with Tim, or I am even chatting with the group team, right? With our group chat, and we realize that this would be better to do on a call, but we all actually happen to be free right now. At the top right corner, I have two options. So I can start either an audio or a video call. In this case, it's an ad hoc meeting. So it's going to be a very similar experience to what you would see if we started a Teams meeting, but I can start it right on the spot here. And then if they are free, they can choose to join. If they're not, they can choose to decline that particular invite. All right, and then one other thing I want to go over with chats before I check in with Sean. At the top here, we notice that next to chat, there's this little drop-down arrow. If I click on this, there's an option to see contacts. Now, for y'all, contacts is going to be internal, so people that you work with internally. You'll notice that I have a group here right now. It's called favorites. It's empty. I haven't added anybody to it. If I'd like to create a new contact group, I can do that. So I can click on create new contact group and I can give this a name. So if we say training, click on create. Now I have a little training group here and I can go into the ellipses by that and I can add a contact to this group. So again, we're going to add people that are internal or work with us at Ohio State University. So I can put in Sean and click on add. I can add Pierce if I'd like to do that. Now, what's really nice about this in particular is the fact that I can quickly see people's availability here. And so right now it's not fully loading for us. Oh, there we go. So if I look at this, this is just a nice, quick, easy way for me to see where people are kind of at. So if I look at Sean's name, for example, I'm going to zoom in. It's showing me that he is currently shown as offline. If I look at Pierce, it looks like he is just away for right now. So if that is something that you like to be able to see in one place, that's a terrific way to do that. And then I could jump between my one-on-one chats with these individuals here as well. So some nice options there as far as the contacts go. And then just like we saw with our posts in our channels, right? We were able, not with our posts, just like we were able to with tabs in our channels, we can add other tabs in chats as well. So just like we did in our channels, we have a chat tab that's similar to our post tab. It's where our conversations are going to live. We have a files tab where any files that we've stored or shared with this person, that's where those will live or show up. And we can add other tabs as well. So if I click on tab, we could add things like a Word document or an Excel doc even a website tab or a OneNote tab if we want to do that. So some really nice options if there are certain files or applications that I'm working with that person quite frequently on. All right, I know we are almost 90 minutes into today's training, so I'm going to pause and look, or I'm going to pause and check in with Sean and see if there are any other questions that have come in that we should address before we continue on.
I have one interesting question right now that's outstanding. You know how in Outlook you can use a distribution list and you can customize that list? Once you add it, you can remove 2 names if you need to.
Yep.
If you need to send a mass message to most of a channel minus 2 people. Is there a way to do that? I suggested using tags to designate smaller groups.
Yep, that's a fantastic question. So to answer that particular question, to the person's point, right, when we create a team, there is a group that's created with that team. So we could use that group email to send an email to the entire team. Now, unlike our distribution list in Outlook, I can't remove a couple of individuals' names from that email if I'm using that group email address. What Sean was suggesting and what I would also agree with is if we go back into Teams for just a moment, right? Let's say with our OSU team, for example, if I go into more options, there's an option towards the bottom that lets us manage tags. So we could, let's go ahead and create a tag. A tag is a really nice way to group people together in this particular team. So within our OSU team, if I had a leaders group, for example, I can create a tag that says leaders and I can specify the people that exist under that particular tag. So I could say Pierce, Melanie, Sean, and we'll leave it at that. Now I can go ahead and click on create. And what's really nice about that tag is I can mention or tag that particular tag in our general or rollout channel. But I can also click on this leaders tag while I'm in here. And you'll notice that we get this chat with group option. So I could start a group chat using this particular tag very easily. So I know it's not quite the same as using the email address inside of Outlook, but this would be a great alternative if we're trying to get a specific group of people's attention inside of that particular team. So I click on chat with group, it'll bring me in, and now I can start typing that message here. I'm hoping that helps give some ideas. If you have more questions around that, definitely let us know. And then Sean, were there any other questions that we should address before we continue on?
There is a relevant add-on question to the tags we're talking about. When I tag somebody, is that visible to the whole team or is that private for my own use? Now, I know the answer, but I want you to explain it.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So if I use tags or @mentions, regardless of if I am tagging or mentioning the entire team, the entire channel, a specific tag that I have set up, or if I'm tagging or mentioning an individual. Let's go back into Teams for a second here. We'll go back into posts. If I were to use this, let's say in a post in a channel, you'll notice here that Melanie's name shows up in this little purplish blue color. That's because I tagged or mentioned her. Now, we'll notice that it does show up in that color, which means anybody that is on this team would be able to see that I tagged or mentioned Melanie. Now, Melanie herself will get a very specific notification letting her know that she's been tagged or mentioned, but anybody that's looking at this post in this team would be able to see that I had mentioned or tagged her. I can also use tags or @mentions inside of the chats. So if I come back in here for just a second, for example, we have this new group chat that we're setting up, but if I had a specific ask of Melanie, something that I really was hoping Melanie had the answer to, I can still put in my @ symbol, pick Melanie, and we'll go ahead and say we set up that leadership meeting for today. And so if I send that message, it will let Melanie know that I tagged her in this group chat. Pierce and Sean would be able to see that I had tagged or mentioned her as well. But again, it gives her that specific notification. So hopefully that helps answer that question for you. If not, please let us know and we can rehash or recover that again. Alrighty. And then one other call out about tags that I would like to address. So if I go back into Teams for just a second here, we set up, if y'all notice, we set up that tag specifically for our OSU team. So I set up a leadership tag that we can use inside of this specific team. Now, anybody would be able to use that tag if they knew it existed. Anybody that's on this team would be able to use it to tag or mention that particular group of people. However, I can only use it either in the confines of this particular team that I set it up in, or if I was going to use that tag to start a new group message. So I couldn't jump into my Engineering 101 team and try to use that @leaders tag from my OSU team. But what's great about that is different teams might have different groups of leaders. So I kind of would like the ability to set up a leaders tag that is specific to my engineering group, a leaders tag that is specific to my women in computer science group, and things like that. But again, anybody should be able to use that tag as long as they know that it exists. Alrighty. Hopefully that helps answer those questions for y'all. A couple of other things I want to go over before we do a little bit of a recap for today. One of the things that I mentioned in our session on Tuesday, but I'm going to recap this, is we have this really lovely search bar inside of Teams at the top here. This is a great resource for finding anything and everything you might be looking for inside of Teams. So if I put a keyword here, if we just say welcome and hit enter, it gives us a plethora of results. So it will search things like our posts and messages here. It'll also search to see if any people that I work with have that particular name. So if we had somebody with the name welcome, they would show up under people. It also searches our files. And it searches not only the title of the file, it searches the contents as well. So if the keyword welcome shows up in the file anywhere, that will show up on our results page. Now, what's really nice about these results is I can filter these down because, again, the more that we start to do in Teams, the more activity we have, the more results we're probably going to pull when we do a search. So if I wanted to, if I was looking for a message from somebody specific, I can put in that person's name. If I go into more filters, I can even limit this to a specific date range. I can say I want to search a particular team or a very specific channel, or I'm looking for something where I specifically was tagged or mentioned. So you have some really nice ways to narrow that down. Different option for searching that I also like to call out. If I am looking at a particular team and what I'm looking for I know exists inside of this channel, I can do one of two things. I can use a keyboard shortcut, which is going to be the Control key and the F key. Well, we'll see. It is not going to let me do that right now. That's okay. Or I can come up to our search bar, which is also our type of command bar. I can put in a slash and click on find. And now it will search. It'll ask me what channel or what chat message I would like to search in. So we could go ahead and click on rollout plan, and then I could put in the word that I am looking for, the keyword that I'm searching for. So now it will limit my search to that particular channel or that particular message, whatever I may have selected. The other the other command that I really like to point out to y'all within this area, and just so y'all know, if you put in that / you're going to see a list of different commands that you can use, but the one I'm a big fan of is /chat. And if I click on enter or tab, it'll ask me who I want to send a message to. Let's go ahead and send that to Tim since he's at the top of our list. And now I can type in my message. So even if I'm looking at a file inside of Teams and all of a sudden I remember, oh, that's right, I needed to tell Tim this piece of information. I should do that before I forget. But I also don't want to leave the file that I'm in just to do that. I can do it from that search bar. I can go ahead and say, I'll just say good afternoon to keep it short and sweet. And then I can either press enter to send it, or I can click on the right arrow to send that particular message. And again, it doesn't remove me from the area that I am working in currently. Also, if I were looking for a particular file, so let's go ahead and just put in welcome one more time. And let's say I was looking for a file here, right? And I was trying to figure out where that file actually lived so that I don't have to rely on the search bar every single time I want to find it. You'll notice that right under the file name, it actually gives us the path. It tells us exactly where that file is stored. So for this Teams CST PowerPoint, this is in our design research group team inside of shared documents. So yes, I could click on this, open this up and work on it from here, but I could also then go back into my team, go into our design research group, and know that it's going to be directly under the files tab inside of that team. Alrighty. So we've gone over quite a bit of information. I want to make sure that we leave a fair amount of time. I want to make sure that we leave a fair amount of time for any other questions y'all may have. So I do want to do some recaps before we open up the floor. So I'm going to go ahead and pull our PowerPoint back up. So we talked about some different best practices today, right? One of them, again, I recommended this on Tuesday, but I'm going to say it again, would recommend that you create your team of one. So create a team just for yourself. It'll help you start to get comfortable with Microsoft Teams. It'll help you start to get comfortable with things like adding tabs or attaching files, things like that. It gives you a chance to really play around and figure out how to utilize and leverage the tool. Again, I'm going to remind y'all to meet up before you team up. So start asking those questions and working with your team members to make sure that the team is effective and efficient for everybody. Go ahead and use that general channel as well. Again, communication around things that are relevant to the entire team, team announcements. That's a great place. That general channel is a great place for that kind of content or communication or resources. And then just some other tips. A reminder, you're always going to want to have at least 2 owners of a team. 3 really is ideal. You don't necessarily want to go way above the number 3. You don't necessarily need or have, there shouldn't be a huge reason to have 10 or even 20 team owners, right? Not that many people need to be able or really will be creating or managing permissions around a team. Don't forget that you can save those important conversations in chat, right? You can use that save message button to bookmark or save something. Also, a reminder to use your team group chats or even posts in channels to replace some of those email chains. So if there's something that you were going to email internally, go ahead and try using a group chat or a channel post to replace it instead. Practice, kind of try out staying inside of one program. It'll help keep your inbox cleaned up as well. And then just a reminder, we can of course tag or mention people or individuals, or even mention an entire group if we have set up tags. And then our last tip that I always like to reemphasize is, yes, Teams is a culture shift. You're gonna have to drive new habits, from file sharing to shifting away from email for internal communication, but be patient with yourself, be patient with your team. Don't be afraid to jump in and give it a chance. It's one of the best ways to learn, and it really will help you get comfortable quickly. Now, I want to say thank y'all so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. I hope that this was helpful or beneficial, that you got some information out of this that you can utilize. We are going to post a survey link in the featured tab of the Q&A panel. If you could take a couple of minutes, take 90 seconds and fill that out to let us know what you thought of today's training. You could either use that link or you can scan the QR code that I have up on the screen with your mobile device. We aim for 8s, 9s, and 10s, but as I said, we want to get better. So let us know what you liked, what you learned, what you would like to learn more about, and that will help us continue to customize these trainings for you. We are going to be here for about the next 17 minutes to help answer any questions that you may have, but if you are going to take your leave of us, again, on behalf of myself, Microsoft, our fantastic partners at OSU, thank you all so much for joining us today. Have a terrific rest of your day. Hopefully we'll see you again at a future training, and please don't forget to grab that survey link on your way out. Now, Sean, before I put on a little bit of background music so people get a break from my voice, are there any questions that we should cover before we kind of leave things open?
I noticed a couple of orphaned questions in the published tab. If we can address some of those. I am assuming they got answered and then instead of hitting enter, somebody pressed publish and the answer was discarded.
Okay, yep, perfect. We can definitely do that. So for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just take a quick look at those, so bear with me. So the first one I'm gonna answer is if your team already has a SharePoint that exists, if the team that you're working on already has a SharePoint site that exists, currently you can't create a team inside of Teams from an existing SharePoint site. That's not an option. However, there is a but, there is something that you can do, which is one of the tab options that you have access to. You have the ability to add, I'll give this a second to load. You have the option to add a document library from a different SharePoint site. So if there is a SharePoint site that you use heavily or that your team uses regularly and you don't want to migrate that all over to the new SharePoint site that was created when you created the team, you can actually just attach it here, and then folks can jump in and work on the files in that library very easily from inside of the new team that you have just created. And I know there are a couple of other questions. I will go in to our published or featured Q&A section and help get those answered for y'all. So bear with me for just a moment. I'm going to take a quick scan through the Q&A to see if there are any other questions we have. So, and this was a great question that I want to make sure we address. Just like I said, we can add or invite external attendees to a Teams meeting. You do have the ability to add external users or external guests to a team. So if I wanted to do that, I'm going to go into the ellipses by this team and go to add member. And then what I'm going to do is use their email address. I will put in their email address and click on add, and they will get an email letting them know that they have been added or invited to this team. So we can add guest users to our teams if you need to. So if you're someone who works with folks both on the OSU and the medical center side and you needed to create a team that includes both, you can do that by adding the medical center folks to a team. By using that add member and using their email address to get them an invite. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put that slide back up here. I'm gonna turn on a little bit of background music. I know we have a couple of other questions that I will help get answered. Otherwise, again, thank you all so much. We will do an announcement before we wrap up today's training, before we stop the live stream. But again, thank you all so much. Hope everybody has a great rest of their day as well.